The Crystal Desert has undergone one of the more dramatic upheavals in Tyrian history. Now a wind-torn sandscape ravaged by conflict, much of the desert was, originally, the Crystal Sea. The landscape we see today was lifted from the depths around the time the human gods disappeared from Tyria. This transformation left many of the creatures of the region in a precarious position: adapt or perish. Not all of them survived. Of those that did, it's the sand sharks that move through these dunes as readily as their ancestors once did through the waves. From the ruined pyramids of the Crystal Oasis to the wind-blasted plains of the desert highlands, even the rocky canyons and desolate mountainsides of Vabi, sand sharks patrol the dunes and stalk for their prey. At first glance, these creatures look more like tropical fish than desert-dwelling predators. Their brightly coloured skin and striking fins would not be out of place in a sun-drenched ocean. But these fish do not live in water at all. Even a stone's throw from the Bay of Elona, the sharks ignore the ocean in favour of the hot, dry sand. Sand sharks are able to live this terrestrial life because of their fantastic adaptations. They have traded traditional gills for the ability to draw oxygen directly from the air. And as their nostril sits high on their foreheads, they can breathe even when partially submerged in the ground. Their triangular-shaped pelvic fins, which sit high on their bodies, help to spread their weight, which means these sharks can cruise up and down the soft, shifting sand dunes of the desert with ease. Even the fast-flowing quicksand that swallows other creatures poses no danger to them, as their fins keep them motionless just below the surface, or their strong tails carry them through the current. These tails are as long as the sand sharks' bodies, with a rigid paddle-shaped caudal fin reinforced with bony spires. This design gives sand sharks unparalleled strength and speed when it comes to swimming across the sand. Partnered with the shark's dramatically extended dorsal fins, which help stabilize these creatures as they twist and turn at high speed, sand sharks can spin circles in the sand and drive clouds of stinging, blinding debris into the air, or explode from beneath the sand and leap to staggering heights. Another adaptation is something as simple as the translucent membrane that covers their eyes. This lends a milky blue cast to their irises and protects them from the abrasive sand. As such, sand sharks can sneak up on their prey by swimming beneath the dunes, or spend hours camouflaged and lying in wait. In this sparse landscape, it's often more efficient to wait for prey to stumble onto them than it would be to scour the desert for their next meal. The array of colours that these sharks display reflects this, from golden yellows to burnt browns and red, even greys and blues in more shaded habitats. The patches of contrasting colour on their fins may serve to break up their silhouettes against the horizon, and come in shades of bright indigo, white and red. Sand sharks sense prey via vibrations in the sand or the scent of blood on the ground. Highly sensitive microscopic hairs run the lateral line of these sharks, from the tip of their noses to the ends of their tails, and any movement can be detected from even the lightest of footfalls. They are carnivorous, preying on the myriad of creatures that share these dunes. Their favourite appears to be rock gazelles, although the larger sharks will attack most things that get close. To compensate for the erosion caused by their prey's tough hides, sand shark teeth shed readily, preventing injury to the sharks if their teeth become lodged in their prey. Their teeth also regrow quickly. Each adult shark carries 3 to 5 series of teeth hidden away in their gums, ready to replace any that become worn. Sand sharks incapacitate their prey with a very acrobatic method of hunting. Using their tails and fins for drive and lift, these creatures explode upwards from beneath the sand, flinging their unsuspecting victims high into the air. The shock of the fall is often enough to stun their victims, and it takes considerable effort to escape the clutches of sand sharks' jaws once they lock onto their prey. Sand sharks are much more social than their aquatic counterparts, seen travelling in groups over the deserts. They can even live penned together in larger groups, such as on this ranch on the outskirts of Amnoon. These domestic sharks under Talib's care offer a rare opportunity to observe sand shark family structure. It is not uncommon for several generations to be seen together, even in the wild, with the young swimming in the wake of their parents. But these sharks in captivity reveal a little more about the life of the youngest sharks. It is highly likely that sand sharks give birth to live young. This is a distinct advantage in such a challenging environment. The eggs, contained safely within their mother's body, can hatch free from predators. The embryos gain sustenance from their yolks, and once of sufficient size are birthed onto the world, much larger and stronger than they would be by other means. 1 or 2 pups are common. Any more are a distinct rarity. It's theorized that as soon as the babies gain their embryonic teeth, they consume their brothers and sisters, until only the largest and strongest remain. Sand sharks are fiercely protective of their young. When threatened, they will bury into the ground and launch their pups high into the air, catapulting them to safety. At the first sign of danger, the adults writhe and stir up the sand, providing a deterrent for any would-be predators. In some parts of the desert, there have been reports of sand sharks preying on humans. Whether out of preference or desperation, these creatures pose a serious threat to the communities that share the desert. So much so that it is very common for humans to cull sand sharks that encroach on their villages and homes. But despite the dangers that they pose, sand sharks are an important part of the desert ecosystem. Their hunting activities keep the herbivores of the desert in check. Without them, the precious vegetation found scattered in pockets of green across the sand would likely become barren. Furthermore, sand sharks provide an invaluable food source. Humans along the southern border of the desert highlands are particularly dependent on the food that the native sand sharks provide. The Makali nomads, harassed by the awakened, do not have the luxury of farmland on which to raise their food. Their nomadic lifestyle relies on the provision of meat from the killing of these sharks. The meat is spiced and seasoned, smoked and dried on racks, or pickled to preserve it. Each shark can provide food that will last for weeks. Other communities have taken to keeping sand sharks as pets. Ogres in particular are drawn to taming the sand sharks for the multitude of skills that the sharks display. Their ability to disorient prey, as well as their unparalleled movement across the dunes of the desert, makes them excellent hunting partners. Ogres tame sand sharks with the same efficiency as any other pet. Once charmed with the lilting melodies of their flutes, the shark pups are handed over to dedicated trainers. Here in Lumald Kral, pup trainer Grekmut teaches pups, elvers and cubs to obey their first commands. Simple things such as sit, follow or hunt. It's a task that requires considerable patience, as these young pets often have a stubborn streak to their personalities. On frequent occasions, the young make a bid for freedom and escape. After they pass this basic training and mature a little, young sand sharks advance onto more vigorous training, teaching them the intricacies of combat one-on-one with their dedicated trainers. Though the ogres must exert considerable effort into taming their sharks, once they have succeeded, these sharks become powerful allies, treated with the utmost affection by their trainers. Whether basking in the warm sun or stalking their prey, raising their young or fighting competitors, sand sharks are spectacularly adapted to desert survival. From their impressive strength to their striking acrobatics, they inspire awe in those that encounter them, as loyal pets to travel with side by side, or as fearsome predators to keep at a safe distance.